for our next session, I'll invite Dr. Aura up to introduce our next speaker.
Our distinguished guests, colleagues, I think so far it's a great job. Now it's my distinguished pleasure to invite Kemfree Director General, Professor James Njiru, to give us a talk on the ocean. When we talk about the ocean, here we are talking about even the lake and other water bodies. And it's a world under threat. As he comes, I'll give you a brief history, not in specific dates. Professor Njiru is the CEO of Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute. He is a full-fledged professor, not an associate in any form. He's a full professor of fisheries ecology. And he is the CEO, of course, of the Institute, and he has mentored many, many students, both undergraduate and postgraduate. And one of those students, I think, is holding a microphone somewhere, and some are in the Middle-East. He has done a lot of publications in the region of 80s publications. He has disseminated a lot of science. He happens to be editor of one of the scientific journals. And for you to take note is that he's leading a very, I could call, let me use the word extensive institute. In this sense, we have Kisumu as a center, we have Turkana as a station, we have Naivasha as a station, we have Baringo as a station. Those are freshwater stations. And then aquaculture, fish farming stations, we have Sagana in Kirinyaga. We also have Kegati in Kisii, and then we have here Sangoro in Kisumu. And the stations at the coast, we have the headquarters, that is Mombasa. We have other stations in Shimoni and another one in Lamu, and among other upcoming stations. So he leads a team of about 660 staff. So on that note, allow me to welcome Professor James Njiru to give his keynote speech. Thank you. Karibu. Let's clap for him. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon. Habari sasa hizi, mko sawa? I don't know what you say in Luo. Also, okay. I think a lot has been said, and I don't want to bore you. First, I want to recognize CEC, from Kisumu, and of course, all other guests who are here today, and the family of Mochilwa, and the wherever, the school, and all of you. I'll go through my talk, and probably if there will be any questions, we can talk. So go to the next slide, please. I want to start by telling you what is the ocean. And why am I dealing with the ocean? I'll be talking a little bit about also the fresh water. It's because the ocean is the largest ecosystem in the world. Talking about 97% of the world is water. And of course, you know this. And 80% of this is unexplored. So there are very many species which are not yet known. So Jeremy, still, there are very many, although we are losing so many. Go on. The next slide. Again, without belaboring so much on the importance of the ocean, I think we know the oxygen you are breathing now, or onto you, 70% is from the ocean. Very strange. You think it's from the Amazon, Mount Kenya forest, but most of it is from the ocean. It also regulates the earth climate. We have talked about climate change. Source of food, mongea mambo ya samaki, about fish, and so many organisms, and of course jobs and livelihoods. And of course, most of us would want to walk around the lake, around the ocean. Is very, very therapeutic. And I have given these in terms of science. The next one. Now, since yesterday, we talked about the threats. Again, we have seen some of the threats here. In terms of climate change, that's the first one. The ocean's lungs, our lungs, especially in the coral reefs are whitening. So they are not supporting the biodiversity as we are supposed to. Then, of course, there are these others, pollution. We are dumping the raw sewage, as Mr. Boyer has talked about here. Pollution of oil spills, it might not be as much here. Now, the greatest one is overfishing. Now we are having only small fish, of course, dredging in some areas. Now, this bird, when it was opened, 3/4 of its stomach was plastic. And I'll talk a little bit about plastic. And just going on to the next one. Again, in very graphical ways. Look at what is happening with my friend at the corner there. He's interweaved in plastics, the nets. What do you expect? He can't eat, he cannot breathe, he cannot do anything. At the end of the day, he's going to die. The pelicans, one of the turtles, 3/4 of the stomach is plastics. Look at that one, look at the fish, it cannot breathe because the gills are already been covered by plastic. And the maintenance we're having now, I can see all of you are having whatever I'm having. After this, where are you going to take it? Probably you're going to throw it at the end of the corner as you go home. So this is what is going to happen to this. Now go on. What can we do? I know that's why Michelle and the team brought us today here. Before we even ask what the government can do, there are small things we can do. Of course, I know one mistake we have done is serving you with a plastic bottle. That is sin number one. You should have been having reusable bottle. In Kenya Marine, now we have removed all the plastic bottles. Say no to plastics. And we have seen in the exhibition, they are no longer using plastic straws. Coffee, some of us like coffee so much. Use the one which you can reuse again. Avoid excessive packing. Say no to disposable plastic cutlery like these ones. All these, you can do this. These are things we can do without naming all of them. You can contribute in your own way, in a small way. Go to the next one. Next slide, please. Now, let me come to the mandate of our institution. This is what we do. We do research in fresh waters, marine, aquaculture, environment, ecological and chemical, and all the rest. And our key idea or goal is to provide information or data which is important in terms of policy development of this country. As you go, especially now towards the blue economy. We have a ship in Mombasa, so we contribute quite a lot in terms of what we are talking about today. Next slide. Of course, without delivering so much, without going to the details, these are some of the policy directions as an institute we have given to the government. Management plan for mangroves, coral reefs, Uganabe fisheries, among many as a government and as an institution. There's some of the books, these researchers who are seated here, some of them have been very instrumental in coming up with some of these books. And when you went out there, you saw some of them. And we thank them for that good work. Go on. Next slide. Again, Why we are here today, I think because of the youth. And we think there is hope in the youth. And they have got a very big role. I mean, it would have been, like 1970s, Michelle, to stand here and Jeremy and lead you as fathers and mothers. It will be an adult. It will not be the protocol. But again, because of their enthusiasm, I think these are our future. And you can see some of them. I want to say that also the government of Kenya, and I'm now studying here in terms of the government, and this is our president here, and I'll be talking about him later on. In terms of pollution, the president has taken the bull head on. Of course, development partners, we will not talk about this so much. I'll be coming back to global awareness, the IOC, UNESCO, and now about technology innovativeness. I think Michelle and Tim have talked about technology. That's why we are here. And we're able to talk to people in Mexico, Tunisia, India, and all over. If it was Ari alone, you'd send a letter, it would have taken 2 months before it reaches Mexico. We are talking to people in all over the world now. We should leverage on this in terms of pollution of our oceans and our waters. Community is very key, community. And that's why today, I don't know, Mama Nani, what's Mama who? From Ndunga and wherever. They are very key. If you want to succeed, it has to start from the grassroots. And someone talking about BMUs in Boya. These are the people on the beach. I know. Let's go on. Now, my personal experience. I think it has been said, and I don't want to dwell so much. I've worked on this lake for almost 20 years now. That time, Michelle was not born. She said she is 16 years. So I'm 30 years in this lake. So you can multiply, you can add some years, you can know how old I am. Plus or minus the 30 years I've been in the lake. I've done my PhD here, I've done my master's in this lake. So I understand the lake pretty well. I've worked with all these species of fish. I've been a team leader in many research projects. We said about publication. I've also authored small children books. I'm also very passionate about books, about children stories. Of course, all this has been said, but probably the other one which I'll come to is I'm the focal point as the Director General for Kenya IOC UNESCO. I'll come back to that very quickly later on down there. Go on. So the lake and the ocean has been part of me. Allow me to educate you a little bit about the ocean. For those who do not know, today know that 42% of our land is in the ocean. Where I come from, allow me, we look for plots. It's not like here. We are so much about plots. And I'm asking my people now, instead of fighting for the land which is almost gone, we should be looking for plots in the ocean. Because 42% of Kenya is the land. That's great potential in terms of marine resources. And if we pollute it, as we are saying, probably, we are catching now approximately about 26,000 metric tons. But from our research, we have found that it's possible to get almost 200 to 300,000 metric tons. We get only 5 billion Kenya shillings from this ocean. We are able to get, I'll come back to that quickly, we are able to get over 100 billion Kenya shillings. Go on. Sometimes we might think the government is doing a lot, is not doing much. When we talk here and say, we want to do this, we want to create a movement. Now, our government is really doing a lot. Go on. I talked about the blue economy issue. Maritime transport can contribute very quickly about 70 billion Kenya shillings. Fisheries, almost the same amount of money. Tourism, almost the same amount of money. We're almost at equal. And all this is in the ocean. All this is in the rivers. And these are the rivers we are talking about in terms of, so if you destroy the lakes, you will not get tourism. Tourists coming. If you destroy the oceans, fisheries will go. So we'll be losing almost 200 billion if you go the way we are going per year. It's a lot of money. Let's go on. Okay. The next slide. The government of this country, and I want to start quickly from 2018, for those of us who were in Nairobi, the first Blue Economy Conference was held in Nairobi, and it was ended by our president. And the idea was to bring the world to Kenya. It was the first in the world in terms of sustainable utilization of our species, and mostly the ocean. We hosted this together with Canada and Kenya. Last year, we were supposed to host another conference, a similar one, in Portugal, Lisbon, Kenya, and Portugal. It has not been possible because of COVID. It will be there this year or next year. And I hope the young youth, Michelle, and you could be able to, let's talk, see how we can bring your voices in this global conference. I'll be part and parcel of the team which will be organizing the conference, and see if we can bring you on board. Go on. I'm bringing this to show you the government is in the forefront, because you said about influence. And if you want to influence, whom do you want to influence most? It's our president, or it's the presidency. Let me use the word presidency, because there's the president and the presidency. Again, in the world, there are 14 heads of states who have come together. We call it the high-level panel. It was started by this lady of Norway. In Africa, there are only 3 heads of states, and our president is one of them. So you can see Kenya the way it is, where it is, in terms of the global issues of pollution and sustainable utilization of natural resources. We are there. The other one is Namibia and Ghana. Go on, the next slide. So, what I would want to bring here as I conclude, the UN, that is the United Nations body, is composed of about in the 75 session, they directed what now we call IOC. IOC is Intergovernmental Oceanographic Commission. Is a governmental consisting of about 300 or so nations, whereby the issue, we have been given 10 years. That's why it's called the Ocean Decade. And the issue here is to reflect on the issues of the oceans and the waters in terms of sustainability. So Michelle and group, you have come at the right time, because now the focus for the next 10 years by the UN is on the utilization of the oceans and the waters. And the theme is the science we need for the oceans we want. We cannot work without the science. And that's why Kenya Marine comes in very handy, because we allow you to use the science. So the decade is very important, and now you can have your voice and in this process. Go on. Then, on top of the 14 head of states I told you, our president was asked by IOC to be the patron. And our president agreed. And what is the issue of the patron? The patron, just like we are doing, is to mobilize people together, get resources, and also get influence. I think probably the key one again is networking, influence, and that's exactly what we are doing. I am the focal point in Kenya, but you can see I'm smaller than the president, so don't say my picture was bigger than that of the president. When I was drawing it, I had to make it a little bit smaller, because I'm a smaller man. I do the groundwork for him in terms of the ocean science, and then give him the report, which he reports now to the UN body and to IOC, UNESCO. So again, it's a very good way of trying to get our issue taken across, bearing in mind that our president is in the forefront. When he wants to do a speech on this, he comes to us. He doesn't have the expertise on the ocean. He will come to our institute. So some of the speeches we hear, we are the ones who have done for him, and we reflect on the issues of pollution and the issues of networking. Go on. So we can also influence if you're able to get the president, not that I get them, I've never been to State House, but I get them through the science. As I conclude, I want to thank your team. And this cartoon, I think you can interpret it in very many ways. But what I want to interpret here, or this cartoon, is you can see the guy at the left there, and these guys, they are busy doing things the way they used to do things. Now, and I think as old people, we want to remain the way we are. We don't want to change. Wasiri, I think we want to remain the way we are. But the young people are coming very quickly. This man is being told to use some wheels so that he can move this load a little bit faster. But he says we are too busy. No, we cannot make it. We don't have your time. So I think it's the same scenario we have in our country, in our systems. As older generation, we are too busy. We think the young people are too, I don't know how Mama and Baba is able to live with this very active young lady and man in the house, because I think they are seeing 20 years beyond what we are seeing. So for these very many remarks, thank you very much and God bless you.